Book 21, Chapter 9 of Morte, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Simon Evers. Morte, Volume 2, by Sir Thomas Malory. Book 21, Chapter 9. How Sir Launcelot departed to seek the Queen Guinevere, and how he found her at Almesbury. Then came Sir Bors to Ganis, and said, My lord Sir Launcelot, what think ye for to do now to ride in this realm? Wit ye well ye shall find few friends. Be as be may, said Sir Launcelot, keep you still here, for I will forth on my journey, and no man nor child shall go with me. So it was no boot to strive, but he departed and rode westerly, and there he sought 7 or 8 days, and at the last he came to a nunnery, and then was Queen Guinevere ware of Sir Launcelot as he walked in the cloister. And when she saw him there, she swooned thrice, that all the ladies and gentlewomen had work enough to hold the Queen up. So when she might speak, she called ladies and gentlewomen to her, and said, Ye marvel, fair ladies, why I make this fair. Truly, she said, it is for the sight of yonder knight that yonder standeth. Wherefore, I pray you all call him to me. When Sir Launcelot was brought to her, then she said to all the ladies, Through this man and me hath all this war been wrought, and the death of the most noblest knights of the world. For through our love that we have loved together is my most noble lord slain. Therefore, Sir Launcelot, wit thee well, I am set in such a plight to get my soul heal. And yet I trust, through God's grace, that after my death to have a sight of the blessed face of Christ, and at doomsday to sit on his right side, for as sinful as ever I was are saints in heaven. Therefore, Sir Launcelot, I require thee and beseech thee heartily, for all the love that ever was betwixt us, that thou never see me more in the visage. And I command thee, on God's behalf, that thou forsake my company, and to thy kingdom thy turn again, and keep well thy realm from war and wrack. For as well as I have loved thee, mine heart will not serve me to see thee, for through thee and me is the flower of kings and knights destroyed. Therefore, Sir Launcelot, realm, and there take thee a wife, and live with her with joy and bliss. And I pray thee heartily, pray for me to our Lord, that I may amend my misliving. Now, sweet madam, said Sir Launcelot, would ye that I should now return again unto my country, and there to wed a lady? Nay, madam, wit you well that that shall I never do, for I shall never be so false to you of that I have promised. But the same destiny that ye have taken you to, I will take me unto, for to please Jesu, and ever for you I cast me specially to pray. If thou wilt do so, said the Queen, hold thy promise, but I may never believe wilt return to the world again. Ye say as pleaseth you, yet wist you me never false of my promise, and God defend but I should forsake the world as ye have done. For in the quest of the Sangreal I had forsaken the vanities of the world, had not your lord been. And if I had done so at that time, with my heart, will, and thought, I had passed all the knights that were in the Sangreal, except Sir Galahad my son, and therefore lay right. For I take record of God, in you I have had mine earthly joy, and if I had found you now so disposed, I had cast me to have had you into mine own realm. Chapter 10. How Sir Launcelot came to the hermitage where the Archbishop of Canterbury was, and how he took the habit on him. But sithen I find you thus disposed, I ensure you faithfully I will ever take me to penance, and pray while my life lasteth, if I may find any hermit either grey or white that will receive me. Wherefore, madam, I pray you kiss me, and never no more. Nay, said the Queen, that shall I never do, but abstain you from such works. And they departed. but there was never so hard but he would have wept to see the dolour that they made, for there was lamentation, as they had been stung with spears, and many times they swooned, and the ladies bare the queen to her chamber. And Sir Launcelot awoke, and went and took his horse, and rode all that day and all night in a forest, weeping. And at the last he was ware of an hermitage, and a chapel stood betwixt cliffs. And then he heard a little bell ring, and thither he rode and alighted, and tied his horse to the gate, and heard mass. And he that sang mass was the Bishop of Canterbury. Both the bishop and Sir Bedivere knew Sir Launcelot, and they spoke together after mass. But when Sir Bedivere had told his tale all whole, Sir Launcelot's heart almost brast for sorrow, and Sir Launcelot threw his arms abroad and said, "Alas! Who may trust this world?" And then he kneeled down on his knee, and prayed the bishop to shrive him and assoil him. And then he besought the bishop that he might be his brother. The bishop said, "I will, gladly." And there he put an habit upon Sir Launcelot, and there he served God night and day with prayers and fastings. Thus the great host abode at Dover, and then Sir Lionel took 15 lords with him, and rode to London to seek Sir Launcelot, and there Sir Lionel was slain, and many of his lords. Then Sir Bors de Ganis made the great host for to go home again, and Sir Bors, Sir Hector de Maris, Sir Blamor, Sir Bleoberis, with more other of Sir Launcelot's kin, took of them to ride all England over thwart and endlong to seek Sir Launcelot. So Sir Bors by fortune rode so long till he came to the same chapel where Sir Launcelot was. And so Sir Bors heard a little bell knell that rang to mass, and there he alighted and heard mass. And when mass was done, the bishop, Sir Launcelot, and Sir Bedivere came to Sir Bors. And when Sir Bors saw Sir Launcelot in that manner clothing, then he prayed the bishop that he might be in the same suit. And so there was an habit put upon him, and there he lived in prayers and fasting. And within half a year there was come Sir Galihud, Sir Galihodin, Sir Blamor, Sir Bleoberis, Sir Villiers, Sir Clarus, and Sir Gahalantine. So all these 7 noble knights there abode still. And when they saw Sir Launcelot had taken him to such perfection, they had no lust to depart, but took such an habit as he had. Thus they endured in great penance 6 year, and then Sir Launcelot took the habit of priesthood of the bishop, and a 12-month he sang mass. And there was none of these other knights but they read in books, and holp for to sing mass, and rang bells, and did boldly all manner of service. And so their horses went where they would, for they took no regard of worldly riches. For when they saw Sir Launcelot endure such penance in prayers and fastings, they took no force what pain they endured, for to see the noblest knight of the world take such abstinence that he waxed full lean. And thus, upon a night, there came a vision to Sir Launcelot, and charged him, in remission of his sins, to haste him unto Almesbury. And by then thou come there, thou shalt find Queen Guinevere dead. And therefore take thy fellows with thee, and purvey them of a horse bier, and fetch her the corpse of her, and bury her by husband, the noble King Arthur. So this vision came to Sir Launcelot thrice in one night. Chapter 11. How Sir Launcelot went with his 7 fellows to Almesbury, and found there Queen Guinevere dead, whom they brought to Glastonbury. Then Sir Launcelot rose up or day, and told the hermit. "It were well done," said the hermit, "that ye made you ready, and that you disobey not the vision." Then Sir Launcelot took his 8 fellows with him, and on foot they yede from Glastonbury to Almesbury, the which is little more than 30 mile. And thither they came within 2 days, for they were weak and feeble to go. And when Sir Launcelot was come to Almesbury with the nunnery, Queen Guinevere died but half an hour before. And the ladies told Sir Launcelot that Queen Guinevere told them all or she passed, that Sir Launcelot had been priest near a 12 month, and hither he cometh as fast as he may to fetch my corpse, and beside my lord King Arthur he shall bury me. Wherefore the queen said in hearing of them all, I beseech Almighty God that I may never have power to see Sir Launcelot with my worldly iron. And thus, said all the ladies, was ever her prayer these 2 days, till she was dead. Then Sir Launcelot saw her visage, but he wept not greatly, but sighed. And as he did all the observance of the service himself, both the dirige and on the morn he sang mass. And there was ordained an horse bier, and so with 100 torches ever burning about the corpse of the queen, and ever Sir Launcelot with his 8 fellows went about the horse bier, singing and reading many an holy orison, and frankincense upon the corpse incensed. Thus Sir Launcelot and his 8 fellows went on foot from Almesbury unto Glastonbury. And when they were come to the chapel and the hermitage, there she had a dirige with great devotion. And on the morn the hermit that sometime was Bishop of Canterbury sang the mass of requiem with great devotion. And Sir Launcelot was the first that offered, and then also his 8 fellows. And then she was wrapped in serried cloth of reins from the top to the toe in 30-fold, and after she was put in a web of lead, and then in a coffin of marble. And when she was put in the earth, Sir Launcelot swooned, and lay long still, while the hermit came and awaked him, and said, Ye be to blame, for ye displeased God with such manner of sorrow-making. Truly, said Sir Launcelot, I trust I do not displease God, for he knoweth mine intent. For my sorrow was not, nor is not, for any rejoicing of sin, but my sorrow may never have end. For when I remember of her beauty, and of her noblesse, that was both with her king and with her, so when I saw his corpse and her corpse so lie together, truly mine heart would not serve to sustain my careful body. Also, when I remember me how by my default, mine orgueil and my pride, that they were both laid full low, that were peerless that ever was living of Christian people. Wit you well, said Sir Launcelot, this remembered, of their kindness and mine unkindness, sank so to mine heart, that I might not sustain myself. So the French book maketh mention. Chapter 12. How Sir Launcelot began to sicken, and after died, whose body was borne to Joyous Gard for to be buried. Then Sir Launcelot never after ate but little meat, ne drank, till he was dead. For then he sickened more, and dried and dwined away. For the bishop, nor none of his fellows might not make him to eat, and little he drank, that he was waxen by a cubit shorter than he was, that the people could not know him. For evermore, day and night, he prayed, but sometime he slumbered a broken sleep. Ever he was lying grovelling on the tomb of King Arthur and Queen Guinevere. And there was no comfort that the bishop, nor Sir Bors, nor none of his fellows could make him. It availed not. So within 6 weeks after, Sir Launcelot fell sick, and lay in his bed, and then he sent for the bishop that there was hermit, and all his true fellows. Then Sir Launcelot said with dreary Stephen, Sir Bishop, I pray you give to me all my rights that longeth to a Christian man. It shall not need you, said the hermit and all his fellows. It is but heaviness of your blood. Ye shall be well mended by the grace of God to morn. My fair lords, said Sir Launcelot, wit you well my careful body will into the earth. I have warning more than now I will say, therefore give me my rights. So when he was houselled and annealed, and had all that a Christian man ought to have, he prayed the bishop that his fellows might bear his body to Joyous Gard. Some men say it was Alnwick, and some men say it was Bamborough. Howbeit, said Sir Launcelot, me repenteth sore, but I made mine avow sometime that in Joyous Gard I would be buried. And because of breaking of mine avow, I pray you all lead me thither. Then there was weeping and wringing of hands among his fellows. So at a season of the night they all went to their beds, for they all lay in one chamber. And so after midnight, against to day, the bishop that then was hermit, as he lay in his bed asleep, he fell upon a great laughter. And therewith all the fellowship awoke, and came to the bishop, and asked him what he ailed. Ah, Jesu mercy, said the bishop, why did ye wake me? I was never in all my life so merry and so well at ease. Wherefore? said Sir Bors. Truly, said the bishop, here was Sir Launcelot with me with my angels that ever I saw men in one day, and I saw the angels heave up Sir Launcelot into heaven, and the gates of heaven opened against him. It is but dretching of swevens, said Sir Bors, for I doubt not Sir Launcelot aileth nothing but good. It may well be, said the bishop. Go ye to his bed, and then shall ye prove the sooth. So when Sir Bors and his fellows came to his bed, they found him stark dead. And he lay as he had smiled, and the sweetest savour about him that ever they felt. Then was there weeping and wringing of hands, and the greatest dole they made that ever made men. And on the morn the bishop did his mass of requiem, and after the bishop and all the 9 knights put Sir Launcelot in the same horse bier that Queen Guinevere was laid in tofore that she was buried. And so the bishop and they all together went with the body of Sir Launcelot daily, till they came to Joyous Gard, and ever they had 100 torches burning about him. And so within 15 days they came to Joyous Gard, and there they laid his corpse in the body of the choir, and sang and read many psalters and prayers over him and about him. And ever his visage was laid open and naked, that all folks might behold him. For such was the custom in those days, that all men of worship should so lie with open visage till that they were buried. And right thus, as they were at that service, there came Sir Ector de Maris, that had 7 years sought all England, Scotland, and Wales, seeking his brother Sir Launcelot. Chapter 13. How Sir Ector found Sir Launcelot his brother dead, and how Constantine reigned next after Arthur, and of the end of this book. And when Sir Ector heard such noise and light in the choir of Joyous Gard, he alighted and put his horse from him, and came into the choir, and there he saw men sing and weep. And all they knew Sir Ector, but he knew not them. Then went Sir Bors unto Sir Ector, and told him how there lay his brother Sir Launcelot dead. And then Sir Ector threw his shield, sword, and helm from him, and when he beheld Sir Launcelot's visage, he fell down in a swoon. And when he waked, it were hard any tongue to tell the doleful complaints that he made for his brother. Ah, Launcelot, he said, thou were head of all Christian knights. And now I dare say, said Sir Ector, thou, Sir Launcelot, there thou liest, that thou were never matched of earthly knight's hand. And thou were the courteousest knight that ever bare shield, and thou were the truest friend to thy lover that ever bestrad horse, and thou were the truest lover of a sinful man that ever loved woman, and thou were the kindest man that ever struck with sword, and thou were the goodliest person that ever came among press of knights, and thou was the meekest man and the gentlest that ever ate in hall among ladies, and thou were the sternest knight to thy mortal foe that ever put spear to rest. Then there was weeping and dolour out of measure. Thus they kept Sir Launcelot's corpse aloft 15 days, and then they buried it with great devotion. And then at leisure they went all with the Bishop of Canterbury to his hermitage, and there they were together more than a month. Then Sir Constantine, that was Sir Cador's son of Cornwall, was chosen King of England. and he was a full noble knight, and worshipfully he ruled this realm. And then this King Constantine sent for the Bishop of Canterbury, for he heard say where he was. And so he was restored unto his bishopric, and left that hermitage. And Sir Bedivere was there ever still hermit to his life's end. Then Sir Bors de Ganis, Sir Ector de Maris, Sir Gahalantine, Sir Galihud, Sir Galihodin, Sir Blamor, Sir Bleoberis, Sir Villiers de Valiant, Sir Clarus of Clermont, all these knights drew them to their countries. Howbeit King Constantine would have had with them, but they would not abide in this realm. And there they all lived in their countries as holy men. And some English books make mention that they went never out of England after the death of Sir Launcelot, but that was but favour of makers. For the French book maketh mention, and is authorized, that Sir Bors, Sir Ector, Sir Blamor, and Sir Bleoberis went into the Holy Land, thereas Jesu Christ was quick and dead, and anon as they had established their lands. For the book saith, so Sir Launcelot commanded them for to do, or ever he passed out of this world. And these four knights did many battles upon the miscreants or Turks. And there they died upon a Good Friday, for God's sake. Here is the end of the book of King Arthur, and of his noble knights of the Round Table, that when they were whole together there was ever 140. And here is the end of the death of Arthur. I pray you all, gentlemen and gentlewomen, that readeth this book of Arthur and his knights, from the beginning to the ending, pray for me while I am alive, that God send me good deliverance, and when I am dead I pray you all pray for my soul. For this book was ended the 9th year of the reign of King Edward the 4th, by Sir Thomas Malory, knight, as Jesu help him for his great might, as he is the servant of Jesu both day and night. Thus endeth this noble and joyous book entitled Le Morte d'Arthur. Notwithstanding it treateth of the birth, life, and acts of the said King Arthur, of his noble knights of the Round Table, their marvellous enquests and adventures, the achieving of the Sangreal, and in the end the dolorous death and departing out of this world of them all. Which book was reduced into English by Sir Thomas Malory, Knight, as afore is said, and by me divided into 21 books, chaptered and imprinted, and finished in the Abbey, Westminster, the last day of July, the year of our Lord, 1480. End of chapter 13. Recording by Simon Evers. End of Le Morte d'Arthur, Volume 2, by Sir Thomas Malory.